Bought one. In case you could not figure out what in the world that first 45 minutes was about, here's 30 easy seconds. It was my effort to tell you that outside the front door of your hive, life's tough out there. And it's not bees just going to blossoms and coming back and bringing food and life going on without any challenge. There's challenges everywhere. Now we're concerned because our bee populations around the world seem stressed by some parameters. My second effort here builds on the first effort on maybe we are looking the wrong direction or trying to see the wrong things when we look for answers. So let me see if I can waddle my way through this second effort on why bees would be stressed in their own nest. I don't know what's wrong with today's bees. I do know this. I'm 66 years old, and some things have changed. As a younger man, I had read several big, thick bee books, and I'd gone to some universities, so I was convinced that I knew all the fundamental answers to beekeeping. Now that I'm older and far dumber, I realized I didn't know much at all those years ago. So primarily, that's one thing that's changed. Things had answers that I thought were clear and conducive answers that may not have been so at all. And then secondly, as you all know, beekeeping has changed dramatically. So I don't know if our bees populations are suppressed, if it's neonics, if it's GMOs, or all the things that we're concerned about. But I do know this: bees are different than they were from those of us who raised our hands a few minutes ago. And I can't word it any better than a commercial beekeeper in Ohio who says, my bees just require a lot more babysitting than they used to require 30 years ago. I know what he means. He said, you build them up, you build them up, you build them up, you get them looking good, you come back, and they kind of go on back down a little bit. Not a lot, but it's some. In the old days, I talked to people over and over and over again who got into beekeeping because their son had a 4-H project, or a daughter had a 4-H project, or somebody had a project somewhere, and they had 2 hives of bees back behind the barn and some old equipment inside the barn. Now the kids are all gone, the bees are still back there. What should I be doing with them? Well, what has changed since the arrival of Varroa is those bees won't stay back there very long now, before something's going to be challenging those bees or weakening them, and then something else will take them out. First of all, I don't know what's up with today's bees, and I'm going to belittle our beekeeping equipment here in a few minutes, and I will try to say it several times throughout the discussion, that I am not suggesting that we toss our bee equipment design. What I will suggest is that we look at the shortages of it that we may no longer see as a shortage just because it looks so normal to see bees in a bee yard. And I want to say that supplemented wintering procedures are not without problems. I left this in. I know exactly where I am. I'm not exactly sure how harsh your winters are, but I know that tomorrow when I drive farther and farther south, that the concept of winter is going to change more and more from what it was where I just came from. But nonetheless, winter is winter. These long periods of inactivity to bees requires that they have food stores packed away. I said we. Maybe I should have said I. But at this point, I'll read what I've written. We can't sustain a 40 to 50% winter kill rate and remain a viable industry. You see, I used to think 15, 20% was horrible until a few years ago. And now I'm just happy to have any bees at all alive. If you got some live bees, I can make more live bees from them. If you got 10 dead colonies of bees, then you're pretty much done. Now, having said that, I did have the opportunity to point out some of the positive attributes of keeping dead colonies of bees. Number one, they never swarm. They're not going to torment your neighbors. Number two, you can take all the honey they've got left without worrying about them going. This just goes on and on and on, this whole thing. And you'd be surprised. I'm not going to embarrass anybody here, but I bet you if I asked, there's somebody in this room right now who loves bees, thinks about bees, talks about bees, had bees maybe, or not, but at this very moment has no bees. So you don't have to be a beekeeper to be in this room. You just have to have an appreciation for what this bee thing does. I don't know if we can continue to take the beating that we've been taking. Having said that, I had a good year. Somehow I'll figure out how to write about it. We just got a killer cold, and I felt like somebody in Alaska. It was cold. And so I had an ironclad excuse. I didn't worry about it. My bee is going to die. There ain't no bee in the world that can sustain this kind of cold when I'm not prepared for it, neither are they. And of the 10 I had at the moment, something like 6 or 7 survived. Well, that was just bizarre. Then that set me to thinking. I'm thinking right now in front of me as best I can. What if these cold winters suppresses pathogenic growth inside the bee colony, and actually colonies come through this better than they would have in a warmer winter where these pathological critters can grow more freely? That's just me what-ifing. I have no idea if that's what's going on. Most important thing on this list is I don't know what's causing today's bees.